Mystery on the 4th Street Bridge. Part 1. The Accusation. I wonder if my hat shouldn't be the other way. What do you guys think? Trying to be mysterious. Yeah, maybe that's the better side. The Mystery of the 4th Street Bridge. Part 1. The Accusation. This hat's not working for me. That's better. Okay. So, the crime scene this week. Okay. We are doing point evidence explain. Okay. But we're doing it in the style of the old detective movies that I used to love so much. Okay. So, the crime scene, the point. Okay. So the point is the accusation. That's the main focus for today's video. Who did it? I don't know if you guys watch those old detective videos. Okay. The evidence. Okay. The fingerprints. What evidence did you find, or how did you find your evidence? And then the explanation. Okay. How do you know it is them? Listen, kid. You want to pass 9093? You gotta stop being a witness and start being a detective. Every sentence in this text is hiding something. Your job, make the point. Make the accusation. The city was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you hear the heartbeat of a semicolon 3 blocks away. I was looking at the file on the 4th Street Bridge. A messy business. People think the English language is just words on a page. They're wrong. It's a crime scene. Every writer leaves a trail of breadcrumbs, and most students, they're just walking past the evidence, but not you. To crack this case, you need a point. You need an accusation. You can't just say the writer used a metaphor. That's like saying the sky is big and doesn't tell me why. The red stuff is on the tracks. You need to tell me the motive. Tonight, are you going to learn how to make an accusation that sticks? Grab your magnifying glass, kid. We're going to the bridge. So this is the text that we're going to be analyzing using point evidence explain. Okay. In each video we will go through it. Okay. I won't do the accent for this one because obviously the accent might be a bit weird. Maybe in the last one I'll do it with an accent. The rain didn't wash the city clean. It just turned the grime into a darker shade of ugly. I stood in the doorway of a boarded-up deli, watching the neon sign across the street flicker like a dying heart. Snap, buzz, silence. The fog was thick, a grey wool blanket that muffled the sins of the sidewalk. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, a lonely, rising shriek that tore through the humidity before fading into the gloom. My cigarette was a solitary orange spark, the only honest thing left in this zip code. Then she appeared. She stepped out of the shadows onto the 4th Street Bridge, her silhouette sharp enough to cut glass. She moved with calculated grace, the rhythmic click-clack of her heels echoing against the damp cobblestones like a countdown. She wasn't just walking, she was invading. She stopped 10 paces away, the mist clinging to her silk trench coat like a desperate plea. "Thorn?" she asked. Her voice was smoke and honey, sweet but dangerous. I didn't answer. I just watched the way the light hit the silver tucked into her belt. In this town, you didn't ask questions unless you already knew the answers were going to hurt. So that is the text. And what I'd love you guys to do is to pause here. Go through the text and try and identify any of the language devices and structural devices that you can see. And please keep in mind, you're welcome to steal this and adapt it and change it, for your own writing. Because the punctuation is great, the vocabulary is great, the devices are absolutely excellent. Okay, this was written by Teacher Jen, just by the way. Okay, all credit to Teacher Jen. Okay, so my advice, okay, pause here, go through the text, look for those devices. In the next video, we're going to have a look at some of those devices to confirm, and there's probably a lot more. So here are some of the language devices. Which side was I? Yeah, I think it was this side. Come on. Teacher Jen's hand is much better than mine. So we got similes within the text. Flicker like a dying heart. Muffled the sins like a grey wool blanket. Her voice was smoke and honey. Okay. Personification. The rain didn't wash, it just turned. The neon sign, flicker. So the city is alive and hostile. We got that sensory Lexus. Okay, sensory Lexus, click-clack, orange spark, hollow ache, smoke and honey again, sibilance, okay, to create that sinister whispering tone. Okay, I think you could get the overall tone of that text. The sins of the sidewalk, that silhouette sharp and smoke and honey again. Let's have a look at some of those structural devices. So we've got a lot of sentence variety. Okay, this is the language you want to be using. The use of fragmentary sentences, snap, buzz, silence, to create tension and a staccato rhythm. Okay, we've got pivotal shift. Okay, remember we spoke about this in some of our earlier videos. Okay, I think from about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Okay, when we were doing that introduction to AS level English. So the one sentence paragraph marks a major shift from atmospheric setting to character action. Remember, we're talking about finding the point. So you need to know your devices. The zooming in or zooming out, the zooming in technique, the narrator moves from the wide city view, then to the woman's silhouette, and finally to the specific detail of the, I can't say the word for YouTube reasons. Okay. So the point in PEE is your accusation. Okay. So you're claiming that the writer is guilty of using a specific device to create a specific effect. Okay, the error that most students make is they will say something like, the writer uses a simile. That is boring. That's just a witness statement. Okay, if you want those top marks, you're going to think about things like the expert point, the what, the how, and the why. So instead of saying the writer uses a simile, remember in our last video in the introduction to AS level, we spoke about how to use that vocabulary. The writer employs a macabre simile to characterize the city as a decaying, hostile entity. The writer uses simile. That's going to get you marks because you've identified the simile. But just imagine if you tell the examiner that the writer employs rather than uses, describing the simile as macabre. okay, and how it characterizes. What does it do? So, what is the point? Okay, take a look at that very first line. Okay, and I probably should have said to you that you should take a scan of this text, because we're going to reference it quite a lot in the next 3 videos. But don't worry, it appears in each video. The rain didn't wash the city clean, it just turned the grime into a darker shade of ugly. Okay, so that first line of our text that teacher Jem wrote. Okay, so the accusation, the point that you make as the student, the writer utilizes personification and negative lexis to establish a cynical noir atmosphere, or a cynical atmosphere. Okay, so to make your accusation stick, okay, it must contain the technical terminology. Okay, so you're saying there's personification, there's sibilance, there's staccato. You're telling us what the device is. That is the point. You're telling the examiner, okay, I don't know how long I can keep this up. You're telling the examiner that you know what the device is. That's that technical terminology that they're looking for. You're then going to add that analytical verb. Again, we spoke about this in the introduction to AS level. Okay, you can go and check out those videos. Okay, that analytical verb, it underscores, it elicits, it subverts. Perhaps then talking about what is the effect that it creates or the impact it has on the tone. It is melancholic, it is ominous. Ominous, like the teacher Nick. He's very ominous. Okay. Okay. So don't be boring. And practice. In the beginning, it's difficult. In the beginning, it is difficult. But if you know your language devices and structural devices, okay, that technical terminology, you start practicing using different analytical verbs in your writing, and you start explaining what is the vibe, the tone, what is the effect, okay, on the reader, it gets easier. Okay, so I want you to imagine, if you want to get that A grade point, okay, think about the writer as your suspect. Okay, the weapon, okay, is that device. And then you start thinking about what is the motive? What is the writer trying to do? What is the writer trying to do? Okay. Listen, kid. Information this good doesn't come cheap, but today's on the house. If this accusation helped you see through the fog, give that like button a firm handshake. It lets me know you're still breathing. You want to stay ahead of the grammar police? Hit subscribe and join the agency. We got more files coming, and you don't want to be the only one left in the dark. And if you've got a partner in crime who's struggling with their English, share this tip-off. In this town, we'll look out for our own. Okay, guys, jokes aside. That is the point. That is the first part. Next week, okay, we're going to be looking at point, evidence, explain. So we got evidence next week, the motive. Okay, so join me next week for a continuation of our story.